Welcome to How It Works, a video series from Law Sites and LawNext in which you get to see hands-on demonstrations of legal tech products directly from their developers. Today's episode, we're going to get a demonstration of AidenRescue, a new product from Aiden just launched to transform post-ransomware recovery. Joining me to tell us more about Aiden and about AidenRescue and show us how it works is Paul Wilson, Vice President of Customer Success. Paul, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Before we get into talking about AidenRescue, which is the new product that you just recently launched, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of a background quick on Aiden and what you do?
Sure. Aiden really is about providing automated endpoint solutions. We try to solve all of those Microsoft Windows headaches for our customers. In a nutshell, our value proposition is we are a security-focused automation solution. So we're part software, we're part managed service, and our service is very white glove focused, so it's a good fit for organizations that require very high levels of compliance, such as financial institutions and, of course, those working in the legal sector. In business terms, what we really do is we remove the workload for our customers by automating everything that an organization wants and doesn't want on their computers, on their endpoints throughout their organization. So all of that daily, weekly, monthly effort to both build computers and to keep them compliant with the latest releases or specifying very specific releases that an organization wants to keep and doesn't want to have on their endpoint, we provide a solution that enforces all of that into place, so that our customers don't need to worry about it anymore. And as I say, we try to remove all of the effort with working with those big deployment engines. We don't replace those big deployment engines like Microsoft SCCM or Intune. Instead, we automate all of the work involved with maintaining them. So we augment those tools. To give your listeners an overview of what that is, we don't just apply the OS updates and so on, but we apply all of the third-party applications, the BIOS updates, the Windows updates, the Office updates, and even the very complicated applications. So instead of just your WinZip and your Teams and your Zooms, which obviously we do as well, but those applications that are really hard to configure and really hard to push out to endpoints like in the legal sector, the Lateras and the iManagers of the world, we help our customers apply all of those items on a machine build and also keep them up to date every month.
And I know you're going to show us a little bit more about Aiden and AidenRescue, but in a nutshell, what is AidenRescue? This is the product that you recently launched. What's it do?
Essentially, it's a faster way to rebuild a device and recover completely in the event of some sort of security incident. So let's say a number of endpoints have been impacted by ransomware. Users have a number of tools that they can use, including Microsoft Intune Fresh Start, for example, which is great if you have something that doesn't have a compromised version of the operating system. So what this does is it completely wipes the machine and performs a 100% bare metal rebuild from the operating system up across the internet. So you don't need local infrastructure. You can boot straight across the internet, pull down the version of Windows that's specific for that endpoint, and implement all of those third-party applications and all of the updates and all of the right keyboard layout, language pack, all of that stuff. Rebuild the entire computer across the internet without relying on having an operating system that may well be compromised, including some of the malware we see now even impacts that recovery partition. So you can't trust that anymore. Better to start from bare metal.
Yeah, and a couple of points to emphasize there. One is it does this over the internet, and the other is that it's rebuilding the machine entirely. It's not just a sort of a basic install at this point. It's entirely rebuilding to the way the machine was configured prior to the incident.
Absolutely. And it's important to mention as well, Bob, that we don't do anything with images here. So you're not just receiving an image that then the user is going to have some difficulties with because there's all of that cleanup work that needs to happen when you use imaging technology. We actually build it from the ground up. So the operating system is a fresh install of the Microsoft Windows operating system. You get the right drivers installed, the latest versions or whatever versions a customer may have described in there. We call it a desired state. So if in that desired state policy, they've specified a particular version of something, that's what is installed. And it's all installed from scratch across the internet. No imaging.
Paul, why don't we launch into a demonstration and you can show us how all of this works.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so there's various components to our solution, and what you're looking at right now is actually our reporting solution. And what you can see is the compliance over time of all of the endpoints in an organization. And you can see I've got 430-ish that are completely compliant with the policy that a customer has provided to us. And then there's some other things that need to be remediated in order to bring them into compliance with that policy. But I wanted to spend a moment just talking about the policy because I think it's important for an organization to understand we've created a solution that's very easy to audit. We've gathered all of the information about what a customer's desired state is, so you can see all of the relevant operating systems that they might want on a particular person's machine, all of the frameworks like .NET, all of the driver packages that are specific to a machine, and we support all of the main manufacturers. But then the example I wanted to give you is it's very easy for anybody in an organization to understand what the rules are for a third-party application. You can see the language here for Acrobat Reader. We're only going to install Acrobat Reader if Adobe Acrobat Full is not already installed. We're also not going to install it on this particular persona that's specific to this demo environment. But why is that important? It's important because there's always been this difficulty in understanding and being able to audit what exactly is going to go onto everybody's computers. We've made that very easy. And in this policy that drives down all of those packages, all of those applications, all of those third-party pieces, not only do we provide those packages, we provide the ability to configure them as well. I'll give you two very quick examples. If I look at something that everybody understands, Zoom. So not only are we dictating the applicability rule saying this is when this application gets installed. It doesn't get installed on VDIs. It only gets installed on workstations. Workstation is a key word for us. It means we're not going to put it on any servers. We also get the ability to configure this package as well. It's very easy for our customers to change these rules or for us to change these rules on behalf of our customers. So I can make all sorts of decisions here about Zoom is only going to go on Windows 11 machines, and I can change that very swiftly. That's all about applicability. The interesting piece, I think, for maybe legal customers is we can also configure these packages. Now, in this case with Zoom, what I've done is I've built into this policy some information that's specific to my organization. We want to use Microsoft SSO, so we're going to use this SSO URL. It's part of the package now. Our customers don't have to worry about implementing these rules themselves. And we've built an enormous amount of configurability into all of our packages. We disable, for example, what Zoom does by default. We don't want to use Facebook credentials as a mechanism to authenticate into Zoom. But we do this not just for the standard desktop applications, but we also do it for complex applications, such as, I'm pretty sure we have an iManage rule in here. So I can come in here and I can configure iManage. So all of that work that's gone into a customer's organization and the way they specifically want iManage to appear, all of those rules, all of that configuration is built into the policy. So when you recover a machine or you build a machine in the first case, or even if you're just updating a machine that's been in a user's hands every day for the last couple of years, you get all of that configuration built in. And there's one other thing I want to show you in here. It may ring a few bells for people working in the legal industry. 2 months ago, Microsoft broke iManage. When they implemented the update for Microsoft Windows in October, it broke the rules and caused people to be unable to authenticate into iManage. So we have the capability in our solution, however, to say something like, and we did this for all of our legal customers, we have more than a dozen legal customers today. I can come in here and I can say, okay, we know that this specific update for Microsoft Windows broke iManage. So I can choose to skip that part of the update. And instead of just saying nobody gets that part of the Windows update, I can be really specific. And I can say, I'm only going to skip that if iManage is installed. So what we've effectively done there is we've taken all of the work out of this for the IT team. We've said everybody gets the full Windows update if they're not using iManage. But because we know the update broke iManage, we're going to skip that very specific piece. They're going to get the rest of the Windows update. So we can get really granular in how we control a customer's environment in this policy.
And how much of that policy setting is being done by you and how much by the customer themselves or their IT people?
So it's a choice. We're actually previewing this. What you're looking at on the screen today is something that our customers will be able to use. We have some customers using it in preview today. Most of our customers want us to manage all of that, and we're very happy to do it. But we have customers who are also saying, we'd like the flexibility to be able to make these changes ourselves. So this is what we've built to answer that request. We've put very large guardrails around it, and we still do a quality check on changes that those customers want to make, just to make sure that what the change they're making is going to result in the outcome that they're looking for. So that's the policy editing. Yeah. And we can create as many rules in here around things that some of those traditional deployment tools aren't very good with managing, so order of installation. We make sure using this policy, for example, that Office gets installed before Adobe, so everybody gets the print PDF button in the right place in a consistent manner. And that's what our solution really does. It's about creating this very highly level of compliant and consistent environment for all of their users. All right. Okay, so that's the policy editor. I'd like to move on, if I can, to the second element of our demo, which is, and I'm keeping AidenRescue. I know AidenRescue is the main subject here, but I'm keeping that for last. I want to show one other thing that we've built that I think would interest folks looking at this. In my previous organization, spent a lot of time working with the legal team. The team don't necessarily want to be told by IT that they have to close applications because we want to do this monthly update that's going to keep them secure. They have a job to do. So they may well have, and the applications I'm showing are more kind of IT focused, but let's say a lawyer has iManage or Latera or Big Hand open and they're working on that. They don't want to have to close that because we want to push out some kind of IT update. So what we've done is we've created a solution whereby we understand these applications open. We're not going to force the user to close them. Instead, what we do is, as we push an update out, if we notice that the application is open, we don't force them to close that. Instead, what we do is we tag it so that the next time this machine gets rebooted, which it'll do maybe at the end of the week when the user leaves for the weekend, or maybe at the end of the month when the Windows update gets installed, at some point, this endpoint is going to get restarted. And now when it restarts, instead of having to interrupt that user, we're going to sneak those updates in as the machine reboots. So what you're going to see is we've applied everything silently in the background, all of the updates that we could, so all of the Office updates, everything else has been done, but that instance of Latera that was open because a lawyer was working on it, we couldn't do that. So with the IT perspective now is we're going to sneak it in as the machine updates. And what you're going to see is as this machine restarts, as Aiden's solution is triggered, it sneaks in those last couple of updates and then presents the machine back to the user. And I'm showing you a bit behind the wizard's curtain here. This is not the screen that the end user would see. What you're actually seeing is our process trigger, apply the updates, and then complete the reboot. Instead, a user would see a very typical Windows update, cumulative update type screen with the ticker going by saying updating application 1 of 2, updating application 2 of 2, and then they're presented with. And now we have a 100% compliant endpoint, and the user has not been interrupted. There's been no negotiation with that team of lawyers. You must close this app at 6 o'clock on Friday night. None of that is necessary anymore. And yet you've still achieved 100% compliance because we're installing these last little elements that they had open just the next time they reboot.
That's great. Good.
Okay.
All right.
And then finally, as I'm sure you want to see, I'm going to show you how AidenRescue functions. Okay, so this is AidenRescue. This is a faster way to rebuild a device and recover completely in the event of an incident. It's 100% bare metal across the internet. So not only do you have a way of remediating more of your vulnerabilities by using our solution on a regular cadence, but in the event of that incident, you can completely rebuild. When a device powers on, the build process is triggered over the internet using HTTP boot, either directly from the BIOS. There's no local images, no manual steps required. Every recovery starts securely using a core principle of Microsoft Zero Trust. We use Microsoft Entra to confirm that the individual is authorized to initiate this process. And this was built from the ground up in the Microsoft Windows pre-installation environment. It connects to a global content delivery network and downloads the Aiden solution, automatically recognizes the device type and applies the relevant hardware profile. Aiden then selects the correct operating system, it wipes the drive completely, builds the partitions, and starts to install the relevant OS for the machine depending on the customer's desired state policy. From here, Aiden then applies the correct BIOS, the drivers, the third-party applications, and all of those configurations for those third-party applications that I was talking about when I was going through the policy editor. And from here, Aiden then applies all of those items, all of the Office updates, even the latest Windows updates that are applied, all of those configurations. It implements that desired state. And it follows exactly the same process that we have for building a machine in the first place or updating a machine. So you're going to get that desired state. All of the logic around order of installation, everything built to the specific desired state for that user. And we're using that common process that we use for the other elements of our solution to ensure that it is 100% perfect every time. It's going to take a little while to install all of those items that you want, not just the updates, but all of your security tools. And it's turned that really complicated rebuild into a single, automated, from anywhere process. And at this stage, we've rebooted now, and now we're going to install anything that's specific to the persona. So it's not one flavor fits all end users. You can be very specific about which persona that individual gets. Even AidenRescue recognizes that and implements. So you might want a different build set for a lawyer than you do for somebody who works in sales or somebody who works in IT.
That's really interesting. How does that process get initiated in the first place? Does it start automatically? Does the end user initiate it in some way, or what's happening there?
Yeah, it can be initiated in a number of different ways. It can be initiated directly from the BIOS, and we're working on an automated way to do that as well. But you can press the F12 button or whatever specific to that machine to go into that BIOS. You can enter the address for our HTTP solution, and then it will reboot and trigger straight into that. So you're booting straight across the cloud. For older devices that may not have that ability to boot across HTTP from the BIOS, we are building USB keys that we can provide to our customers so that they can boot from that USB key. That will then allow them to boot across the internet.
And what was the option prior to this product coming along? I'm at a law firm. We're the victim of a ransomware attack. My machine is locked down. What would I have had to do before AidenRescue?
You'd have had to get that endpoint back to somebody in IT to wipe and rebuild it. We have lots of mechanisms for helping our customers to build endpoints. And you can do things like fresh start from Intune, but that's reliant on an existing operating system being available on that machine. And as I said earlier, that may well have been hit by some malware. We've seen some pretty nasty malware now that does impact that recovery partition as well. So you're rebuilding something and unwittingly you're putting the malware straight back onto the device. So this would have taken an enormous amount of time, an enormous amount of IT effort in order to rebuild. Maybe this is several hundred endpoints, maybe even several thousand. The resource implications for that are obvious. Now, the end user can trigger this process. Maybe they're working from a home office. Maybe they're working from an airport. You can trigger this across Wi-Fi in an airport. as one of our engineers did a couple of weeks ago. He actually used this to rebuild using a connection to his mobile phone. He rebuilt his entire laptop in the airport across a Wi-Fi connection from his mobile phone. That's how flexible this is. You don't have to ship the device back to the IT team to get them to do it and get it shipped back to the individual. This can be done in place from anywhere. And there wasn't a solution to this prior.
That's great. Is this currently now shipping or available to customers, or what's the status of the product?
We're making this, it is not yet available. We're making it available to a number of our existing customers in the next few weeks, but from very early Q1 2026, this will be available either as a customer of Aiden, or if this is something specific that you want, we're also working on a mechanism that allows you to do it even if you're not an existing Aiden customer.
It looks really good. I know our time is just about up. Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Just to say, we do have a list available on a newly launched website. So if you are interested in AidenRescue or anything else that we've covered today, please do visit the website, aidentech.io. If you're interested in seeing more demonstration of AidenRescue, we'd love to talk to you.
Paul Wilson, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having us.
That does it for this episode of How It Works. You can find the full series on YouTube. Just search for How It Works there. It's also at directory.lawnext.com. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for watching today.